Some other motorcycles are still using a carburetor to control and operate the engine. This carburetor is one of the necessary parts on the engine operation, on which any mechanics personnel will needs to learn and fix the motorcycle carburetor problem. The carburetor that we used for this video presentation is the carburetor of Barako 2, a Kawasaki motorcycle 175cc with 4-stroke engine. Always remember that twisting the throttle of motorcycle is not controlling the volume of fuel to feed the engine. It is only controlling how much volume of air flow that pass into the intake of carburetor. On reality, this volume of airflow will control how much fuel was fed into the engine. Meaning that the carburetor have venturi, on which the volume of airflow will pass on this area, creating a very low air pressure, to raise up the fuel from float chamber and mix the air flow for engine feeding. The rising of fuel into the venturi area was happened due to the pressure difference, on which venturi has very low air pressure than the float chamber that have a normal atmospheric pressure. According to the Bernoulli law, that the faster the airflow will create more lower air pressure. Then, this venturi has smaller air pressure due to the airflow than this atmospheric air pressure is larger. The different parts and function of this motorcycle carburetors are the following. 1. Throttle valve slider is a cylindrical valve that installed near venturi of carburetor air intake channel, to close and open for air flow regulation when the rider operate the engine RPM. 2. Return spring, used to make tension of the throttle valve slider that going back to the original closing position when the rider release the gas cable of the engine. 3. Choke valve, a valves that will gives extra more fuel to the combustion mixture, on which more fuel than air mixture. It is commonly used in being activated by a rider, during a cold starting to operate the engine immediately. 4. Fuel drain screw, is a screw that can be loose, when the rider like to drain a dirty fuel with water. 5. Idle speed screw, it is a stopper screw that adjusts the throttle opening for a specific engine idle, when the rider release the throttle cable on rest position. 6. Air vent, is a tube channel that gives a ventilation of float chamber, to keep the constant air pressure that equal to a normal atmospheric air pressure. 7. Fuel inlet port, is a port on where the fuel line hose from the tank is connected. 8. Venturi, it is a narrow and smaller diameter part of the carburetor intake channel, that designed to speed up the airflow for creating a very small air pressure difference, on which fuel will flow together with the air to have a combustion mixture. The diameter size of venturi will vary, depending on how much specified cc power of the motorcycle engine, because the air and fuel mixture will created on this venturi area. 9. Gasket sealed, will seal the float chamber properly to avoid any leakage of fuel. 10. Overflow pipe, used to bypass the excess amount of fuel level from the float chamber, that will flow out from the carburetor. 11. Float chamber, it is a fuel storage of the carburetor, before it will flow to venturi area for mixing with air. It has a normal atmospheric pressure that larger than venturi air pressure. 12. Main jet, or main nozzle, is a tube channel that connected from float chamber into venturi, for fuel spray during middle, or 75% engine RPM until highest engine RPM, on which activated as a main circuit of fuel regulation. The main jet diameter was made on different sizes, according to the engine power capacity for stable ratio of air and fuel mixture. 13. Straight jet holder is also a tube channel that hold the main jet position. 14. Pilot jet. It is the idle tube channel that spray fuel during very low engine RPM until the middle engine RPM, on which activated as a mid-range circuit of fuel regulation. 15. Float pivot rod. It is a float pin that lock the position of the float during rise and fall movement. 16. Buoys. It is made of metal, brass or plastic that can float on fuel liquid, in order to move the needle valve for opening and closing the fuel supply. 17. Needle valve. It is a triangle-shaped needle that follow a float up and down movement, for closing and opening the fuel inlet, in order to regulate the amount of fuel in the float chamber. 18. Air mixture idle screw is used to set on how much amount of air and fuel mixture, to make richer or leaner mixture that will enter to combustion chamber. The normal combustion mixture must be 15 parts of air and 1 parts of fuel. 19. Slow jet is also a tube channel that connect from float chamber into intake manifold, after the throttle valve slider. It allow to flow the fuel into idle jet during engine idle speed, on which activated as idle circuit of fuel regulation. Motorcycle carburetor will mix air and fuel that used to power the engine. It is modernized, improved, and updated over the past years, but the air and fuel mixture principle is not changed until today. The function of carburetor is to mix the air and fuel for creating a combustion mixture, which regulates also the engine speed. The advantages of using a carburetor are the following: no need any fuel pump to pressurize the fuel line during engine operation, very simple and easy to repairs that no need any computer software for adjustments. The disadvantages of using this carburetor are the following: we experience a hard starting during engine cold, adjustment will stack if not used in long period of time, and less efficient than fuel injection. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, share, and follow to my channel, Knowledge Link Information.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me.